All right, good evening, good night, friends. Today, our group is comprised of Ken, Jamie, Aaron, and myself, Bruce Reed. Today, we'll be presenting to you about 3D printing. 3D printing came into about 1984 by Charles Hull. He developed them. The term was coined at MIT, and the concept was just based off a simple inkjet printer, excuse me. They were actually mass produced in 1996.
So, what is a 3D printer? A 3D printer is pretty self-explanatory. It's a device that takes a three-dimensional model of something and prints it into a physical piece, like all the parts that are being passed around right now. So how does it work? There are a few different kinds of 3D printers that we'll talk about in a moment, but the basic concept is you first make a model of the part you want on a computer using a drafting program such as SolidWorks or AutoCAD, whichever one you have. And you take that model, you upload it to the print processing software, and that software basically takes the model and slices it into very thin layers around 1/100 of an inch thick, and it will then send those layers to the printer, and the printer works much like an inkjet printer does. If you know how a normal inkjet printer works, the print head goes back and forth across the paper, laying down a layer of ink to print out your document. A 3D printer, most of them do a very similar thing where the print head moves back and forth across the print plate, laying down a layer of material. Then the plate moves down and it goes back and forth again, laying down another layer, and it builds up layer by layer until you have a completed three-dimensional object. So there are three main types of 3D printers. The type we have here at Eastern that you'll get to see in just a few minutes is the extrusion type. It works with plastic, and it basically takes small plastic wire, it melts it and extrudes it out into thin layers and basically draws it onto the printing plate and builds it up layer by layer. Another type is the granular printers, and with those types of 3D printers, they can use plastics, they can use metals, which the other types of printers cannot. And basically, your material is in a powdered form, and it spreads a layer of the powder across the print plate, and then a laser goes across and solidifies the parts of the powder that are needed for the part, and then it repeats until you have a completed part that's built up and ready to be used. And the final type is the photopolymerization type, and it's very similar to the granular, except instead of using a powder and a laser, it uses a liquid of plastic or polymers and an ultraviolet light to harden it.
Here are the various fields you can use, or that these printers are used for. You can use for jewelry, footwear, industrial design, architecture, engineering, construction, automotive, aerospace, dental and medical, education, and many more.
Okay, here we have like the material, some of the material that it prints out. Actually, right now, 3D printers have over 100 different materials that they can print with, as far as powders, like the titanium. They can use titanium powder. I'll show you guys a picture of that later. Plastics, but some of the properties or the materials that they can make is rubber materials, hard plastics, polyurethane, temperature resistant materials, and opaque and transparent materials. I got this from Mashable.com, and there's many more properties. There are many more other properties that they can produce, but these are just a couple of them.
I'm going to tell you a couple reasons of why we should or why do we use the 3D printers. What I found out is, let me think, I'm sorry, rapid prototyping, sorry. You have the ability to basically, have your idea, implement it, print it out, look at it, see the imperfections it has, and go right back in and fix the problem. What else? They have, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now. Rapid manufacturing as well, once you have finalized the pieces that you finalize the pieces that you done in the prototyping stage, it helps reduce the cost of outsourcing manufacturing. And some of the cons of the 3D printer I found that were the time constraints. It's pretty, it takes a lot of time for objects such as these to finish. Some of them can have unfinished appearances because of the plastic and some of the powder that gets left behind. And right now, an actual 3D printer, it's not really costly for household use, so they're pretty expensive right now.
Some of the future concerns that people are having with these 3D printers, and I'll show you a picture of this too, is the creation of weapons. They've actually printed off and test fired a gun. So that was one thing that they've used. They say you can make a sword out of it, but depending on what type of material you use will depend on how sharp it is. Patent designs. I know, for instance, we got passed around like the Lego. They're not Legos. Okay, that's just a printed version of something called interconnecting blocks. So what the issue is that essentially if you had a kid and you had or whatever, if you like Legos yourself, you can print out hundreds and hundreds of Legos for probably a little cheaper than what you'd buy at stores. So as far as patenting, and as far as medical reasons, I don't know if it's a big deal for most of us. I mean, for me personally, I think that for medical, I think it's great that they can print out a new organ. Well, they're working on it right now. They haven't been successful with it yet. But some people have, ethic beliefs behind you should let your body, take its own course of nature. So some people have ethic values behind medical and how they're using that. But those are some of the concerns. And then this is just the growth of the industry. Right now in 2012, so this year, the 3D printing industry was valued at about $1.3 billion. By 2020, they are talking about the 3D printing industry to be around $5.2 billion. As you can see here, that's a 300% growth increase. We're going to show you guys a couple examples. We're going to run through them pretty quick. That way we can get to our other activity. This one here I put up for Gabe. I know he likes bikes so much. So this was actually a bike that they made, 3D printing. This is the first functional gun that they've made. It looks like a real gun, but it's not metal, it's out of plastic. And this right here, the titanium jaw, there's a lady in Australia who was suffering from their bottom jaw degrading. So what they actually did is they took titanium powder and they printed the titanium powder and actually replicated a new jaw for the lady in Australia, and it's successful, and even to this day she's still eating better and everything. So what we're going to do right now is, if everyone can kind of get up, we're going to take a quick tour. You guys can follow us. We'll show you the 3D printer that we actually have something printing right now, just so to show you guys, and then we'll come back and do a quick question and answer, and that'll conclude.